So, just wait for a couple of more minutes for everybody to. I guess we all can chat. It's a platform we all can interact as well.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I'm just yapping and yapping, so I'm sorry.
Well, someone needs to, because trouble is with Zoom, you're all waiting for the other person to talk in a funny sort of way.
You're right. So I'm going to keep quiet for some time because I'm just yapping.
Well, we're looking to you, though, aren't we, Ashima, because you're the facilitator.
Well, I'm just enjoying listening.
Oh, my God. You can talk too.
Hello.
Hi, Cheryl.
Are we late?
No, you're not. We still got a couple of more minutes to do.
Oh, okay. Have you started?
Not yet. I was waiting for everybody to join in.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Super.
Because this is not exactly a demonstration kind of a workshop. I just want everybody to join in and explore Doodle Art is what I really want with everybody. I know everybody's a brilliant artist here. I just want to do a bit, I don't know how you would all react to that, but that's like we're going to have some more bit of mindfulness exercise here.
So how long have you been doing doodles?
Okay, Cheryl, it's really long. I started my work, and from my college, I did my bachelor's in fine arts, and I used to do miniature paintings that time. Tiny ones and do storytelling through them, but they were like more figurative that time. And then I went into advertising, and I used to do, because in advertising you always feel so stressed out because the clients wanted a concept just in a couple of hours for a release. You got a magazine release, a press release happening, like that. So draining. It really get anxiety. So I started to doodle that time, and not knowing that actually that helps me to relax a lot, and I can think more creatively after that. Simple doodles, and I started to create works, just black and white works. I started to create, and I realized that this is what I love.
Hi, Cheryl.
Oh, who said hi?
Me. Angela.
Oh, hi, Angela. Hi. Sorry, Ashima was just talking to me.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
Sorry, Ashima, so then what happened when you decided, because obviously you're a professional artist.
Yes.
So how did you then go from that step? Are you going to tell us that, or am I jumping the gun here?
No, it's fine. You can ask me.
Okay. Because it's quite a big step to take from being in advertising and then doodling, and then suddenly you're making your story, your journey as an artist with your doodle art.
That's right. And then, the acceptance of, hi Nadia, how are you? And hi Guru, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, good to see you.
I know, lovely to see you. This is us taking through my journey of, so
it's not very long. Has everybody here loudly? Because she's quite soft to me, whereas everybody else is loud. Are you all hearing her clearly?
Yes, yeah, I can. You're quite soft, and she's quite loud, actually.
You're loud. Oh, that's fine. I'll call Jeff. I'll go and get Jeff.
Okay. Yeah. So I kind of shared. I just so where I was. So then, because I was working in advertising, and I was doing unknowingly that this obviously came through my detailed work, liking for miniature painting, which is time, and I loved doing that. So then I realized while in advertising that this really helps me, and I started to combine symbols. Now, as being a graphic designer, I had that little flair of very direct symbolic art, more conceptual art, because that is what over time, graphic designing and in advertising really taught me, because you had to be more indirect than direct sometimes. And I just realized while I was doing that, that I think I really enjoyed doing my doodle art, and I was till then just working on white and black. So I used to just work with pen and ink that time, and this was about 5 years back. I was just working with black and white, and I then gradually I moved on in college.
Great. I love your work anyway, so can't wait to have a go with you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. Thank you.
That is why I then just realized that yes, so my graphic designing has taken a backstage, which is like more highly paying that time.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but I really enjoy this, and now I'm doing a lot of teaching doodles in it,
Great.
creating lots of stories and going more detailed.
I think when you start, I think it might be a good idea to ask people to mute themselves, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. I'll kind of
Uh,
everybody as well from here. I'll hire up and everybody. Because I've got everybody joining in, so I'm just going to wait for a couple of minutes. In the meantime, like I said to everybody, this is more about exploring, firstly, thank you, and I'm glad to be doing this little workshop with such amazing artists, and I am sure we will come up with something what our inner self is going to really reflect, and that is what I want you to do. And I want you to just let free of your minds, your constructive mind, and just translate whatever is coming to your mind on the paper. I would do a little bit of tiny bit of a mindful exercise here first, and you're free to ask me any questions in between as well. Please don't hesitate, and yeah, so I'll kind of just do a bit of introduction into doodle art, and then we can get started.
Ashima, can I ask you to turn your volume up a little bit, because I can't hear you very well?
I'm sorry, I'll just...
I can hear really well.
Yes, I can't.
It's not quite bad, actually.
Is that better now?
It's a little bit better, yes, thank you.
Okay, now I'll do a bit more. Yeah.
Because if I turn mine up, then I'll be too loud.
I've turned it up.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries, that's fine, Ashima. So, I just wanna, I'm gonna go back again, sorry. I'm just gonna welcome everybody, and I'll be happy to answer any kind of questions that you have. And I just wanna talk a bit about doodle art and its benefits, and I'm sure all of you already know what it is, but would like to just speak over it again. So if I just want to ask, do you have any idea like what doodle art is to you? What doodling is to you, and what doodle art? So like two different aspects to it.
But doodling for me was what I did when I was bored when I was at school. I would just be drawing away. You just almost unconsciously, partly unconscious, partly consciously, it's sort of going in a sort of funny sort of way. It was filling in a gap. So that was sort of doodling. I just because I've always been pretty good at drawing, but that's what doodling was for me.
Yeah, wonderful. That's right, filling up the gaps. And like you said, it's like doodling is more in a mind of both. Let's hear somebody else, then I would explain.
Just as a sort of therapeutic thing, when my mother was living with me towards the end of her life, she lived with me for 17 years. I was her carer, and we got to the stage where she couldn't go out, and so to try, and we had carers, and to occupy her mind, she always said she couldn't do any art. She was very proud of me as an artist. She said, I can't. So I bought her the, these felt tip things, and every day without fail, she had to go drawing, and it was, well, basically rhythmical, doodling, but sometimes things would emerge. And you would say to her, can you see, is there something in, and she would laugh. And she would then tell you what it was, or then she would say it's a load of rubbish. But I kept everything she ever did, and I've never shown anybody. At some point, I would love to have the opportunity privately to show you and ask you what you think.
Definitely, sure. I would love
Okay. Together, just together. But that was a release, and that, yes, as Hume said, it filled your time, but it also gave something to the unconscious mind, and what it did for her, it focused her attention. So it gave you a sort of weird focus to something that you wouldn't have done otherwise.
That's right. That's right. Anybody else wants to add on?
She was getting quieter now.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Sorry, Homer, did you
You've
say?
gone quieter. It's bizarre. It's coming and going a bit.
Oh, is it? So maybe my internet connection is not stable? Is that better now? No.
Not the same, really.
Sounds good to me.
Homer, that means it's your internet connection, not mine.
Yes, probably.
Right.
That could be it.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
Yeah. Just in case my internet connection goes down, I just request everybody to be online, and I'm going to jump in with the Bluetooth because I am facing connection problems. Yeah. So as you rightly said, Homer, it is all about filling gaps, and that is doodling. And like Joyce said, it actually brings your focus back, and it is an extremely good mindful exercise because it brings you down to the present moment. I know everybody paints, we all paint. I used to work only on acrylics and medium earlier, and I never thought that doodling was actually an art. But yes, when I read about it, it actually is. Because these are the unconscious symbols, signs that keep coming up on your paper, and it could be very random as just circles, arrows, somebody's name, because we keep writing because that is engraved in our unconscious self. And that is actually your true self and your true artist that is coming out. We all of us paint landscapes, we all paint portraits, yes, we all are, and we keep molding it ourselves. So each artist brings their own unconscious self also in that, and that part is doodling. All these famous, it actually helps doodling. That's doodling. And when you combine all those symbols and those fillers that you do logically and give a meaning to it, takes a form of doodle art. Like, for example, like what I do those fillers with Kumar'S said as a filler element, and majorly the shapes that I take from what naturally comes to me when I have had that one theme in mind, and I try and narrate that and compose them together. I compose them logically in the sense that one random shape or maybe swirls leading to an arrow. So how I combine them up together is what I meant by logically. So you're combining those little random shapes of yours, those doodles together to narrate a story. And what happens is when you are generally unconsciously just scribbling and making stuff, you look for a form within form. And that is what it is. Like for me, I always look at forms. Like there is a tree which is just outside my studio table, and I always see faces in that. I would share that piece with you in a bit because I was just sitting and I did a branch of the tree with just faces. This was recently done when we all went into the second lockdown, and I felt that tree didn't have any leaves, they were just dry stems, and I put myself in that position, in that situation, and I could relate very well to it because that is what I was seeing. That was in my unconscious self. And that is what I saw in nature. That is what I saw around me. So I'm always trying to dig out a form in the form. And that is where my stories of my paintings come out from. It would be just graphical, very symbolic, but that is how it comes out to me. Each face, when I look at it, it actually tells me a story, and I kind of bring in that story through those tiny doodles and patterns that I build into the main form of it. And so now just a few benefits of doodle art. It actually helps in controlling anxiety, and because it blocks, it's a repetitive, so there are different techniques to it. The repetitive pattern action that you see, you see lots of repetitive patterns which are there in the nature as well, right? Those, when you start to draw it, it blocks your mind from wandering, and it brings you to the present moment, and it improves, like Cheryl said, it helped her mom to focus. It brings all your concentration on that little tiny strokes that you are using all the time, and it releases up over time. I'm not saying just in a day or two, but it releases your anxiety, and over time you start to take control of your own self. It helps in self-expression. It's a very good exercise that you do when you're really looking at like as a therapy piece, which I've just seen explored. You start just making simple faces. Focus on the eyes and the features, right? And just in line drawing, and you would see whatever you think about, or wherever your own mind is at that particular second. I'm not saying moment, a second. That is exactly the expression that comes out, and you keep building one on top of the other, like a composition. And you would see all different expressions, all different moods coming in that, and that is exactly who you are at that time. I don't know, might be sounding like how is it possible, but just give it a shot and you'll actually realize that. And it also helps in problem solving, because what we do in this is, like, you normally work directly with pen and ink. So sometimes we feel, when we're writing, sometimes we can correct, we erase our lines, we correct, and we keep developing it. But whereas in doodling, when I recommend everybody, I tell them just use your black pen, because pen is a firm, it makes a mark, and you cannot erase that mark. So you try and create lines or different shapes, or like playing with the negatives and positives to correct that up. So that gradually over time helps you in problem solving as well.
Actually, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Carol, did you want to? So these were just few benefits of doodle art. Does anybody have any questions for me here on it? Yep, Cheryl. You need to unmute yourself. I muted you.
Yeah, Roy wants to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Just very quickly,
Yeah.
we've just been looking while you've been talking at your website and your pictures.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could explain, I know it'll be difficult, but how you get from what you've just been talking about, the random marks and that sort of, to those images, because they're quite controlled and composed, and you know.
I'll tell you, yes, definitely those paintings are extremely composed.
Yes.
Like I just said, to me, I look for, nature in my work is my communal with the nature and my surroundings. That is what my work really depicts. And I try and look for the forms in a form. And Cheryl, the image, the painting that you had, which is the origin one, that is a lady, a woman's face, which has got the tree and which has got that sunset at the background, right? The sunset and the colors were from my own, house window, what I saw. And when I looked at that sunset, and that time I was really thinking a lot about women, women are actually the various aspects of women, the features, the strength of women. That is what I was actually reading a lot about during that time when I saw it, and I saw a sunset. And then I related. I said, and the trees were there in front, of my house. I've got this huge windows, where I can just see the trees because I'm on the top floor, and there's a sunset, right? And I had in the back of my mind, because I was reading about women empowerment, various aspects of women and how women's strength of the women basically, I correlated that up. And the entire series has actually been made on the backgrounds of sunset. Now the entire series, different colors of it. So I thought about that, comparing the women with tree in that particular one, and because the strength, the tree is deep rooted, is the symbol of nurturing. So that is what helps me in the women's face, that the woman is very strong, she's very deep rooted. It takes really a lot to actually move the woman, to shape the woman, because biologically or whatever, she has that in her, and that she's ready to take up all that is, because that is why I say women is a multi-person, she's multi-talented. No offense to men, please, here, but it is because she's always playing so many roles at one time. So now your answer to that, they are so structured, because if you have a look, so those doodles, so I just sketched the outline, because that is what I wanted to represent, because it's an art piece which is basically for galleries or for people to relate to. So that's the graphical form that I just created. That's a doodle sketch, the main one. And the detailed doodles that have gone into it are very natural. They were not very thought through. They took their own natural form, and that is how they've got some water base. So like, obviously, when I started to do it, I just did the face and roughly the tree. But then later I actually did the lotus, which was the main foundation for it, because that was a compassion, the women, as depicting the women as a symbol of compassion and love. And also, the lotus is so beautiful that it is such a beautiful flower, but the roots of lotus are very thin, and it grows out of the muggy water. That came in later, and I filled in the gap. And those tiny doodles which are there inside are not thoughtful at all. It just naturally flew because I was in that state of mind that this is what my theme is.
Oh, thank you. That's very, very informative. Very good. Thank you.
So any other questions? So if you, yeah, I've got one more question.
Are you familiar with a painter called Mark Tobey?
No, I'm not actually.
Not now. We'll talk about it later. He's an American painter, and his paintings, although they were never big, I always thought they were quite large, but they're not. And they were really about what you've just been talking about. I think a lot of them were based on writing and script, but they were very random looking, and line and linear, and you should look at them because I think you'd like them. Mark Toby.
Mark Toby, I made a note of it.
He was very influential in the 30s in the British rise of British pottery. He was a painter, but he was connected with Leech and people like that, and pottery decoration as well. So it'll be worth a look.
I would definitely. I would show you this couple of like the tree where I looked at faces. I'm going to show you those are really tiny artworks, but that is what I would share with you in a bit. I haven't bought them here. I bring it when everybody is kind of just a bit of an exercise. So I will bring that up and show it to everybody. And does anybody have any other questions? Yes, Angela.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the way that I'm thinking about what you're saying. To me, it's as if you get something in your imagination from a stimulus from around you or from just meditating. I won't say just meditating, or from meditating. And then later you think about it more and you enhance it and make a story out of it. Is that right?
That's very right. So I build in my connection. It's what it is. What I see. So it's always looking for form. So it's so funny, but people sometimes laugh at me. So when I'm taking a walk as well, there is. If you actually have a look at outside in the nature, everything is made up of Zen patterns.
Yes.
And that is what is
true.
there in my work as well. A lot are Zen patterns. Because if we see the waves, those are very symmetrical. And they'll form a pattern, like one line leading on to the other. If you look at the leaves, if you look at any texture, if you look at clouds, some versions, it actually has very distinct patterns in that. And I always feel if you all look at the clouds are a very good main source of inspiration. They've got like, they give you shapes, they give you forms, they give you dragons, sometimes dragons and fairies and something or the other. And there is also a bit of a connection because you see what you want to, right?
Yeah.
And you want to do what you want other people to see. So it's like you create something what you want others to see as well. So, yes.
Yeah. Do you ever work with your other hand? I mean, I happen to be a little bit ambidextrous now through this, but I find if you work with you probably read the book, the right side of your brain, but this business of being slightly focused but unfocused, conscious but unconscious, in the moment. When I'm teaching, many years experience obviously, but getting the students to draw with their other hand. In other words, if their right hand, draw with the left hand, because that also gives, what it does, it gives you a kind of permission to be out of control, in control, out of control. So it gives you permission to say, it doesn't matter if this is messy, it doesn't matter, because I'm doing it with my other hand. It's like you're forgiving yourself for a bit of a mess. But on the other hand, it can make your drawings extremely dynamic and expressive, intuitive. This is the intuitive side. So have you approached that approach in yourself?
Yes, sir. I use that as one of the exercises in my Doodle Art sessions, which I normally take from well-being. And you absolutely got it. And I think I have experienced that over the ages, starting from children to adults. And when you start to do with your non-dominant hand, because that is activating your non-dominant side of your brain as well. So it brings in, and I've realized that it actually brings in a lot of control. So it brings you in a lot of control, and it's very helpful for temper control, temper management. Because you are trying, you are focusing so much to get the thing right with your left hand that all your pent up frustrations or anything just come out in there. So when people are not in control of themselves, I think I realized that reading a couple of and experimenting if you do with your left hand or with your non-dominant hand, it really helps. But what a lot of people are very good with both their hands. So it's like that time you tell them to work together, and like when they're working together is when they realize that they still need some kind of lot of focus actually. So they always also encourage that to activate the other side of your brain, you should always kind of do brushing your teeth, which involves actions in stirring the cup with it, so that you start to activate and start to train the other side of your brain.
Yeah, I came into that in a very interesting way because I had a student who was a very good artist but right-handed, and she had developed a sort of cancer or something in her right hand. She wanted to give up, but I said no, try with the left hand, and she would be in tears because I can't do it. But I said just keep persevering, and she did. And of course the results and the effects are totally different, but they had an impact on her and on her life, and she continued drawing with that hand up until the time when she went, to the drawing board in the sky sort of thing. But her family actually wrote to me and said they couldn't thank me enough for providing her the opportunity to carry on drawing with her other hand. So I suddenly thought, crikey, this is really important. We all really need to use the non-dominant hand as well, even if it's to open a bottle or to feed a child, anything. We need to use both hands. We have two hands. Yeah, thank you.
Whatever comes to your mind, just do it. I mean, it's nice because we all kind of learn from each other. Right. So I just want to say, do you want to just take about a 2 minutes break before we really get on with one of the exercises as well? Do you want to?
Don't mind whatever you want, whatever you wish.
I think let's just take that little bit of a break for about just maximum 5 minutes, and I'll just show you a couple of works, and then we get on with one bit of an exercise where we all are going to be doing expressing unconscious self and going to get you into a situation. And do you think that's workable?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And we do need to, for next time, we do need an A4 sheet or any paper. Your sketchbooks are also very good. We need a pencil, a black marker pen. And if you do want to work with colors, so if you're working with any colors, that's also wonderful. If somebody wants to work with watercolors, you can keep watercolors and a little cup of water, because it's going to be more free flowing, and I'm going to get everybody into a situation, and then we can do really repetitive patterns around it. Yeah, just about 5 minutes break, and we can get back at 2:37.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's good.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I'm quickly going and getting some wax.
Okay.
But I just saw, like I said, I kind of spotlighting like so a couple of that. So if you see, this was a tree where I could just see that little faces around. That is my pencil just for a walk. Just kept on doing it. The other one was I was actually seeing birds in it, so that was good.
Oh.
It was just very natural, and they just became like I took my pencil for a walk. That is what it is.
Hmm.
I ask you something? Have you kept your pen or pencil on the paper without lifting it up? Or are you doing it single line?
I'll tell you what. So in this, there were like sections. What happened? I just started from here on the top.
Yeah.
The one that I had started with, and I just kept doing it. And but when I had reached here on the other side, I had to go. I lifted my pencil up.
Okay.
But when I was this version, I did not. So when I had to go onto the other side, because this is where it started.
So there's 3 stops there then, yes?
It was this one.
3.
It is connected.
Yeah.
And then I went here.
Oh.
It's similar to Indian art, isn't it? There's a particular kind of Indian art that you do a very similar thing.
Yeah, so my inspiration is definitely from, like I said, I started to do miniature paintings. And miniature paintings are one of the painting styles in Rajasthan,
Yes.
which was done basically to capture. So India is all about storytelling. All Indian art, actually, folk art across the world is all about storytelling and what people felt. So in India, miniature paintings were done during the time of all the Mughal empires. What they did was to capture the scenes of the court inside and the palaces. They narrated the stories through this tiny details. And so I was always I used to do a lot of miniature paintings all along, and that is what led to patterns and shapes and forms.
It's very interesting.
And I'm going to share another one, which is again very free flowing one.
I don't know how to get that. How does that come down? Right.
This one. This is extremely natural, free flowing. So I was actually at school that day, and here at the time, so I was just working. I had things. So what I did was I just everywhere. And started from the top and start to rotate my paper. And at the end, what I really saw was that I felt that, there was this little one tree, and I had started around just pink colored, dots, and I had water. So whenever we do waterproof ink with water and keep turning, it just starts to take very natural form. And when I really looked at it, I could actually see the tree with some birds sitting on it. So these were the 2 birds, and I could see the nest. I felt that, So, and then I kind of just did. When I started, then later I started to give them forms with their doodle patterns. If you have a look at it closely,
Yeah.
I started to do doodling, just random doodling on it. And I was identifying the form in the form itself. And that is what I got from here.
Fascinating.
And here as well was the sunset. I saw the sunset in the window. So this is done by acrylic. This is not Doodle Art exactly. So I was doing these. What I started to do was I started to sketch out all, just with the paint dabs. This was just done with a sponge pad, and I just started to do colors because it was a sunset which I was seeing. And then I realized when I was just seeing this, I saw a form of, a sunflower there. And this is what I just took. So this was all not with a conscious mind, all with an unconscious mind. Only the center portion was with a conscious mind that I did. And a couple couple of white lines.
Very, very beautiful.
Lovely, yeah.
They're like all unconscious. These are like very unconscious stories. Narrating stories to unconscious mind. It's the one which is finished. And working on the series now. Just finished up one.
Wow.
Was it? Yes.
Amazing.
Beautiful. That's very beautiful.
So, and for those bigger pieces of my doodle art, I actually use mixed media, and digital rendering is one of the important component of my style, because I, being a background of graphic designer and in advertising, my mind worked digitally quite a bit, and that is what really. So I kind of blended, I integrated those black and white fine line doodles that I used to do with digital as well. Yeah, so that's the main key of my style.
I ask something?
Yes, please.
So when you do the digital, do you draw initially and then scan that in and color it in digitally, or by what process do you work?
Okay, so yeah, that's a very good question. So what happens is, like, the first sketch, which is just my outline, my thought. Okay, what I do is I just sketch that out, this rough sketch, like in a sketchbook, and I put it aside. I just go back onto my computer and start to do the background with the brush. So, like with the mouse, I work with the background, just with the brushes for layers and layers. And that is the connection with the rough sketch, the clean sketch that I've done. And then the rough sketch that I have done, I bring it on to my computer after scanning, and then take a print out of that.
And the final piece, is that digital or on paper?
It's on paper, but it is like the second stage is like digital, because I work on digital, but it just has a bit of a background, just first wash off my background, because I work with the computer. That is how my hand and mind coordinates really well. And this rough sketch that I have done, I just transfer that up on to the digital background that I've created, and I take a print out on, like, Hanamala paper sometimes. Like that's the main paper that I work on, because I like that cotton rag. Yeah, and then I work on it fully, and then I work with my pen, ink, and also watercolors, acrylics. So the last one which I showed you, the yellow, that's acrylic paints and gold leaf on it.
And when you do it, your print, are you limited by the size of the paper that your printer can use?
Yeah, so I go up, because it's like really time consuming. It just takes me hours and hours also to do those tiny details. So maximum I go up to is like 30 by 30 inches. That's just in square size, or 28. I mean, that's the maximum I've gone up to. I haven't really explored more than that.
Is that A3 size?
Inches. No, bigger than that.
Bigger. But how do you print out on a bigger than A3 size? Have you a printer that will print out much bigger?
Yes, I don't do that at my printer. I do the declare printing process.
Right.
Because obviously it's like I need, and the paper is I work on the German etching paper.
The Hanamula.
Yeah, it's difficult to move your pen on that, because the pen keeps breaking all the time. And also the paper, if you've got color, so that is the first wash for it. But because that is the main link of my work, and my thought comes to the colors, and those colors actually lead me to those colors and the form that I have, the outline form, they lead me to do the final doodles which I do inside.
Sure. Does he instill it?
Should we kind of ready to do any kind of exercise? Yes, please. David, you are on mute.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes, David, definitely.
Right, I do apologise, I've got to go now, but I found it very informative and very interesting indeed. And I will do some doodles.
Definitely would love to see your doodles.
Right, I'll have a look at your website and I'll send you some.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Bye, David.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so now we just do a bit of mindful exercise, and we come up with our own forms, and we try and figure out our own forms, read our own forms in it, and then we're going to do how we kind of build up patterns on it. And I just want to add on one thing. So if you even look at all the things like the 20th century artists, they all had the elements of Doodle Art in that. Like Gustav Klimt, I'm really inspired by that. All the patterns inside the works, like if you look at any of the paintings, has actually got doodle patterns. Nero was a symbol used like absolutely, yeah. And even if you look at Starry Nights, the brush strokes and also the 3 different levels are all about doodle art, and they were all done by that imagination. The strokes were very rhythmic. Yep, so it's all about doodle art. Is also one of the pattern base which I was talking about is rhythmic and harmony. So here, let's just go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you can get your watercolors if you want to work with watercolors, or you can just get a black pen, because I'm just going to be drawing with your closed eyes in this. I would just give you a situation, and then I would like you to get drowned in that situation with your closed eyes and visualize. And whatever you visualize, I want you to just leave without lifting your pencil up or your pen up. You're going to do that. In case you're using watercolors, I would suggest get your brush and get couple of colors. If you're using it in the tube, just get couple of colors on the palette. Yeah, and with your closed eyes, just need you to dip your brush in the color and randomly just draw whatever comes to your mind in here. Now, what the situation, I'm just going to be saying, we're going to start here. Imagine you are in a crowded city. There are buildings, skyscrapers everywhere. There are cars running, zipping left and right. You are walking on the path. And what do you really imagine there? What do you think should be there? Or do you look at something there which attracts you? Or it is something that you would wish was there? Just close your eyes, and without lifting your pen, just do it. Just create something that comes to your mind. Imagine you are in the busiest area, and there you are standing, you're walking. There's cars zipping. What do you wish there was? What do you want there to be? take yourself in that same journey and let your mind, release your mind from everything that is around you. Just focus that you are walking through that busy land. And what do you wish for? Just let your hand flow. Let your mind, let your heart guide your hand. Yeah, I think Kumar, you're done. And once you're done, so I've got my sheet on the demonstration, my camera on the demonstration sheet, and I as well went on the same trip as all of you did. And this is what the scribble I did. Now I would really like all of you to try and look for the forms that you've done. Let's see what have you done. I'm going to put you on the spotlight. I see the high-rise building. Do you want to just lift it up a piece? And yeah. And you see the path, you see people. I don't know, what is this? Is that a table?
It's someone sitting on a deck chair.
Yeah, oh yes.
In the middle of the road.
Wonderful, that's really nice.
And it's got a river running by.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Very nice, brilliant. Anybody else wants to share?
That's me.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, I'm gonna do a spotlight for everybody one by one. So, Cookie, do you want to put that up? I love that. You've got birds. You've got beautiful. You've got everything in there.
Can you see?
I love the composition. Yes, please, Cookie. That's wonderful.
Okay.
You've got a tree. You've got lots of birds.
I've got a tree. I've got birds. I've got water. I've got fishes. I've got plants. Rocks.
Wow. It's amazing to see that you all have done so brilliantly and without actually looking at it and just some hard guiding. That's it. Like, oh, I can see a person's face. I can see trees there.
Oh, Hume, that's so good.
Yeah, and I can see one tree. I've got to see the face. I can see mountains there.
I wanted the nature to take over from the path, so trees just came to mind.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wonderful.
That's what
nice.
we all did, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, all of us did that.
Yeah.
But, all of us got a different way of looking at it. And let's see Linda. Linda's has also got the same thing. She's got the river flowing in the front.
Yeah, everybody's done the same thing. Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but you got a bird. She's got a bird there too.
But I didn't do trees. I did buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is trees because I've just come back from the Rickmansworth Aquadrome.
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
Ah.
So your mind unconscious was really guiding you there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful. So, let's just see that.
Oh, good.
Wonderful. I love the car flying up. In the tree, there's so many cars, the people. Like, is that you in the center?
Yes.
Wonderful. And I really like the way your car is right on top of the tree.
Oh, yes, in the tree. Yeah, that's good.
I did mine blindly, and they're all at the foot of the buildings. And I couldn't think how to do the wheels because I'd have to lift my pen up.
No, but that is exactly what I said, but you've done it up very well in the shows.
That's great.
I can see a bird there, sure. I can't see that very properly at the moment.
Yeah, it's hang on a minute, something's happened here. It was just like I was thinking I was a bird. And just flying up and with butterflies and bees, because you kept on saying, think what it is you want.
Yeah.
This is me. Meow. And sort of a bird within, I don't know, just beaks and birds. I read bird as well.
Yeah, written the bird there.
Yeah, Roy's got something. Can you see Roy?
Let's see 1 second.
Oh, that's the countryside.
With a beautiful sky.
Yes, got the sky.
Yay.
And the sun. Can you see the sun?
Yeah.
Yes, I can see the sun there, the sun, the sky, the buildings there.
In the foreground is all the people.
I think you set him on a new path.
I'm glad, seriously. I'll just share mine too. What I did. Oh, sorry, I've got the other link. I've got my demonstration sheet. And can you see what I did was? And can you make sense of it?
It's paint.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's a tree form, it looks like.
Tree with the bird on it. It's just taking, so it started with a tree and it just, the bird with the rain.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I did mine with my left hand. I'd like to do another one. I'll do another one later with my right hand. See what happens.
Yeah, that should be really good.
Yeah.
We can actually, all of us, do the ones who haven't done the non-dominant hand and the other, right? So now, now let's just get on with some pieces of patterns in it. Let's start to build patterns. I'm just going to share a screen with you and then going to guide you how we can do that. So what I would want you to do is, in your entire sheet that you've done, I want you to highlight just one or two main bigger components. And like, for example, I'm going to be doing, just see if that makes sense here. It's a reverse hand for me. I have to just do that 1 second, please. It's just forming a reverse hand for me, so. So in the scribbles, in those random lines, I'm just trying to find some forms in it. Okay? Gonna highlight those up.
I don't know what I haven't got any highlightable patterns.
Why have I got Marcia?
I don't know. Why have you got that?
What's wrong with it?
What's wrong with that? What's it done to?
Oh,
You can take a thicker pen to highlight, because we're going to be working on patterns, and I'm going to show you and screen share something just now. Can you all see a screen share? So this is the kind of work that we would be working with, because even this has been done with random one line hand, and we try to compose. So there's an animal, they like compositions, different various animals in this composition. That is what it is. And now with slightly a conscious mind, we're going to be working with the patterns in here.
I haven't
We're
got
going to be
any
doing, so
patterns.
if you have a look at this, you do see the foreground, midground, and the background as well. And that is exactly what we would want to do. And I'm sure all of us, we can work it out to show like how to make the patterns denser and lighter, to show shadows, to show the foreground and the background and thickness of the lines. And if somebody wants to work with watercolors now, can do that too. Once you've identified what you want to really highlight, I want to highlight that little bird from here, I thought. Yep. And how do you decide on the various patterns that we have? So the simplest thing is you can relate. So if you've got a bird, you can just think about what is the pattern that you can represent to display feathers, right? So I'm just going to be drawing. So you make a bit of your symbols on the side. Probably to make it more interesting, we could have, maybe patterns like this could work in. They look like leaves, but also for feathers, you could do that. You can do rhythmic patterns. This is what we're doing. So we're using just lines to represent it. So probably I could compose this entire thing up. So I got divided the face up. Think about your patterns. Yeah, and try and start from one side. It doesn't matter if you don't. I don't want you to stress on giving them really tiny, and you can do them really big as well. And so we've got divisions. We've got natural divisions. Yeah. So I've got a natural division. If you have a look at the face, I've got two areas which I can do for light and dark, that is denser pattern and lighter pattern. We can even use colors, or you can just get watercolors and brush that up completely and then go with your fine liner pen over it. Like I showed you the one that I did with the birds. And also you can just work with horizontal, vertical lines and not do detailed patterns. You can just work with horizontal, vertical, diagonal lines. I'm putting everybody on mute because I just want everybody to be enjoying this process of patterns. If you got any questions, please shoot. So you can definitely use your conscious mind in terms of if you want to give caves which are coming from somewhere, you want to give dense effect, you want to give shadows, you want to give highlights. And it's always nicer to actually just follow the outer curve that you have, that is, follow the line. So actually, the easy way to build up patterns would also be, you can think about the various structures from the city environment and bring those in. You could bring in building environment or just let your imagination go wild here. Like we had the car on the tree, so that's a very good composition to actually work on. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions? No, nothing else. Wonderful. Everybody's just good.
Too busy. Right.
How's it going? Any questions today?
I've finished.
You can just erase out all the lines that you don't want of the pencil. Oh, you've used a pen, so that's fine. That's okay. I've lightened them up. Cheryl, did you try it with your right hand as well?
No, what I've done is actually filled it all in with my right hand, and I'm sorry I have now because it looks a bit sort of forced. I mean, like,
Can you have a look? You want to share it?
it's come out a bit too definite in a way.
That's okay because that is why it was meant to be with your con. Oh, this looks so nice. One second, spotlight you. Wonderful. I really like yours.
I mean, there's
Yeah, but that is what it was meant to be towards the end, because once you've identified the shapes, the forms in there, you kind of give definition and give a meaning to it. So this is how you're narrating the story around it.
it's come like a bird, it's come like a fish, another bird, a butterfly, another bird here, something here. Goodness, I don't know. It's probably the strangest thing I've ever done.
Did you find it strange just because you always spoke of structure in this?
No, not at all. In a funny kind of way, I don't like to admit this. I don't know how you're going to take it, but it took me back to school. Because when I was at school, I used to love art, and this is the kind of thing I might have done. You know, like really gone into shapes and doodling.
If you look at it, okay, I'm going to come back to this. Let's just answer this question. Okay, so
The grass is very beautiful and pretty. I just feel mine's a bit of a...
let me just take you here this question. So this is, doodle art is all about exploring the inner child, letting go,
Okay.
letting the inner child come in out of it,
It's my inner child. Yay!
move away from the boundaries, because we've always, as an artist, we are always just trying to do everything very perfect.
Yeah,
Yes, so this is something,
maybe.
perfection, looking for perfection in imperfection is what we do. Oh, wonderful.
Okay. I take your word for it.
Yeah. Master, what do you have to say about it? I think it looks very good.
Well, it's very strange because when I was at university, a friend of mine was an artist, and he used to do a cross between what I've done and what you've done. And it was all patterns, all interwoven with lots of lines and lots of scrolling. And I've never done it before. And I found it very soothing.
It is.
I mean, it's not a proper drawing, but it's got a lot of meaning for me because you see where the river was. Well, the river is still there going round the city.
Yeah.
But it now has 5 fish.
Exactly, that's right.
And that makes me very happy because I really care about the seas and the fish and the pollution.
That's nice. The idea is that it takes you into a journey that you really want your unconscious self really wants.
Yeah, and I think that's me sunbathing on the sunbed because I'm not allowed to because I've had skin cancer. So that's my ideal world.
Wonderful. That's really
Yeah.
nice. You depicted through just lines. That is what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just lines and patterns and not
Or maybe it's just saying I'm a strange fish.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely. You can really see the river book, and you can see, is that an octopus inside?
Nice path.
That's a fish. That's trees. There's lots going on there. And yes, Humay, do you want to talk? Humay, you are on mute. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's just that I've just hooked into landscape. I'm a figure artist. Essentially, I'm a figure artist.
That's right.
Suddenly, in recent times, I've done 2 or 3 landscapes, and it's just as relevant. And I just find there's even more movement. You can have even more carte blanche to sort of escape from. Well, even though my figurative art is quite gestural in itself, this is just taking it another step.
It's just amazing because I can actually see, you've got a beautiful foreground in there, and the key elements, the ones that are actually narrating the story, they are like all on the foreground. Lovely.
Yeah, that's
I really like it.
Yeah.
It's just that you should just do what you have. Anyone else that wants to arrive? But yeah.
I got.
Manjula. Okay, Manjula, 1 second.
Yeah, I got the.
It's like illustrating the storybook.
This one look like human.
Yeah.
And the car, and I thought this is like a tree. I don't know what it is. It's
even the human figure looks like a part of like the branches of the tree.
Yeah, and then I can see a flower here. I think 2 human, car, and
exactly. That is what I can see. One next to that hand coming out.
Yeah.
And it's so expressive, and you put the 2 people. So it's like extending your hands. It's thinking what people have been. That the hand extending to bring them together.
Yeah.
Amazing. How did you feel while you were doing that?
It's relaxing actually, and I don't know what was in my mind maybe.
Yeah, it's very good. It's like bringing in. Marcy, just 1 second. I'm just going to do a spotlight to you in a bit. Yeah, it's so amazing to see like a hand coming forward.
And 2 people is like.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This is really nice. You've actually made the complete composition. So do you want to just speak about it? You're on mute.
Bottom left.
Sorry, can you repeat? I think we lost you there because you were on mute.
Here we are.
Yeah.
I'm outside, so as you can see.
Yeah. No, I'm happy you're enjoying the sun, and you've done that outside, taking a walk. That's so good.
Gracias is good. Yeah, that's good.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Very good.
You want to add on something, talk about that, or no?
The cars are flying.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's what we are heading for. Like another few years' time, we'll actually have cars flying out.
Yeah.
Love your expression. How did you feel about when you were doing this?
I enjoyed it.
Then Linda's. Linda, let's see yours. Linda, that's nice. You see the sun, and you can see that one little. What do you think about yours? What do you want to narrate through this?
Well, I was finding it rather tedious.
Tedious to do the patterns, is that right?
Patterns, I just, as you can see, I gave up after about 5 minutes. I couldn't go any further.
But but you've actually bought all the key elements in there. So that is why what you do is just identify 1 or 2 key elements that you want to narrate in there.
I've got the sun, that's about all.
Yeah, exactly.
The sun and the water.
Yeah.
But what the hell's that? I've no idea.
Does anybody want to have a guess? I can see 1 person as well on the side, right at the sun. And I can see the building in the top, so it could lead on to a building, or like a tree leading to an horizon is what I can make out of it. I don't know what anybody else can
I think it's like one of those roofs that has a conical type roof.
Oh yes.
You see a lot of country in parts of the country, lovely. Can't think of those houses.
Like Oast houses.
Oast houses, that's it. Oast houses, yes. It's like that.
I'm delighted that you can see things in this.
That's it.
I think if I should have started with a pencil, and then I could have rubbed out like you were doing. You were rubbing out, weren't you?
Yeah, I just got rid of the because I started with a pencil, but it's nicer to be doing with a pen so that you cannot erase out the lines.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
It's really nice though, very nice, and I mean, we like it. So
Thank you.
Has Roy got his?
we got to see cookies as well.
Well, yes, yeah.
Cookie, just put that back.
Oh,
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow,
cookie.
Wonderful.
that's lovely.
Whose is that?
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cookie did, but it, I mean, actually, everybody's done it very well. It's beautifully done. Cookie's, it's like well demarcated, and everything is coming out very well prominent, and like the story is coming out very well. So, Cookie, do you want to just narrate your piece with us? I know it's so obvious though.
Okay, that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I love the colours.
Yeah, really nice.
Mm. Oh, nice.
Nice.
It's Cheryl said it's too literal.
It looks like the Middle East to
Very
me.
good.
Crowded scene in the Middle
I
East.
love the birds in this. The sky is so amazing.
This is the best
Can I
bit.
just say that really it's something I would never do. No, I don't mean the way I've approached it, but I mean the image itself. I never do buildings and landscape. It's always landscape. And while I looked at what I'd done in that, just drawing it, and I really did draw it by not looking at it, it suggested, I think somebody mentioned people, and loads of people in the city with suddenly the architectural, this is
Yes,
what
that was me.
and yet it's still there is the sky.
Yes,
Sunset.
everlasting.
And that's really what I try to get into it.
And the red sun, I love that.
Yeah, I love the
Love
red.
the
And
red.
sky
I love the
part
red.
is just amazing. It's like the lines, the birds are leading onto the sky clouds, and you've got the sun and the horizon.
I don't know whether you've noticed. I've just noticed actually looking at it. There's a bird in the sky.
Yes,
There's two birds.
there are two,
Well,
yeah.
there's two birds. There's one.
Bird.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
dear.
lovely
Right.
picture.
Okay.
I have to mention something here because this is not the kind of thing. It's really interesting. There are some artists. Roy, I think, is one of them, and a friend of ours, Kent Howard, is another one. They said they just cannot draw or paint anything that isn't in front of them. So if it's a cup of tea to a landscape to a bird, they might take imagination further from a sketch, a drawing that they've done, but it all has to be there in front, not from in the mind here.
Mine's also
So
memory.
yeah, it's all it's memory, still memory of what is there in front of them, has been in front of them. This is something else.
This director's.
This is a totally different activity, which I think we're going to have to talk about this because this is very interesting actually to me.
Mm.
Yeah, really.
break away from
Yes.
Just breakaway, yeah, definitely. This child thing, letting yourself go. I mean, mine's getting colour now as we're talking because I need to sort it out. So it's getting colour, and I think that'll help to define areas. I'm going to carry on with it.
definitely. So that is why it actually helps in boosting up creativity across ages. It does. Because it helps you to break away from a very structured and analytical brain. We do say that artists, all of us, we break the boundaries. We are not limited to what is there in front of us. But invariably, we are always drawn to what is there in front of us. Like you just said to me that, in my painting, I've got very, very structured forms. Okay? Yes? So that is what it is, that we never want to break away. When you are doing an art piece, for obviously we all are selling our art pieces, so we want it to be more explanative for the viewer and not let the viewer's imagination. So we want to guide the imagination, guide the thinking. We don't want to let it open up.
That's true.
That is what we all are restricted to, and the idea of doing this exercise today with everybody was that free yourself from that restriction and let the joy or the wildness come within you, which you actually would not really do on a normal, when you're normally creating a painting or an artwork. You normally would not do. I mean, that was my idea. I don't know if it succeeded.
Well, I've never done anything like this. I've never painted a town like this, or I've never used lines before.
I've never painted cars going through trees in the sky.
That's exactly right.
That could be the safest one, yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I think this kind of thing is intruding into my art now. So I've started doing one or two landscapes because I'm finding I did the challenge in not Bentley Priory, but the challenge they do every year in the garden, and I got second prize for it. You, Angela, and Cookie were there for that. But I found that what I was drawing in front of me, it took over the repetitive leaf shapes and the stems and the way I painted it. It is kind of intruding on my art now that I've added landscape to what I do over it, whatever. It is a part fantasy landscape, automated type of drawing, and partly what is in front of me, and that's the interesting process. How much you create and how much you control.
Yeah.
As opposed to my bigger study.
It's interesting what you say, because I was watching on telly the other night. I think it's been on before, but Hockney at the RA.
Oh yes, I saw that.
Yeah, and it was very much thinking about today and what he was saying. I mean, most of his stuff, although he goes out there and does a bit, it's a lot of it's about memory, and when he gets the image and the information, the mind then takes over, and the stuff he does is, well, to me it's exquisite, but it sort of goes off into a total another plane. It's not just a representation of the landscape, although you can see it is the landscape, but it's all the colour he introduces, art making that he makes repetitive, and it's all about, he talked a lot about that. And that sort of resonated a bit today, thinking about that.
Yes. It's kind of frightening in some ways, because you feel that you may taking over too much. So it's quite exciting, even I suppose, in many ways.
Oh, that's right. That's very true.
I think what it is giving, it's sort of giving yourself permission just to be.
Yep, right. True. That's right.
Yeah, you're just in the moment. Not really thinking about subject matter or
all the things you've ever learned.
Yes, it's stripping it.
What you've learned, whatever you've learned. We didn't learn all this in our schools.
Strip it away.
Too bound by what is right, the academic arts, always.
Picasso said that.
But I think I remember seeing a very large exhibition, where I've seen a couple in my time, but called Outsider Art. Did you ever see that or hear about that? Look it up, it's probably still somewhere on Google. Outsider Art. And what it was art made by people that had never had any art school training, never been to art school, and just actually drew doodles or whatever they wanted to draw. And it was I think it was at the Hayward Gallery. It was years and years ago. There was also another exhibition at the not Oxford. Where did we go with Jonathan that time? Chichester.
Oh, Pallant House.
Pallant House. There was an exhibition there at Pallant House. People with disabilities, either mental disability, physical disability, also that had art. There's obviously been some sort of art therapy for them, but they'd come up with the most extraordinary work. I mean, it was just exquisite, and some of it was very thought-provoking work. Yeah. So there's that aspect as well. How do you judge what is a great work of art?
That's right. That's very true. People just ask me, I'm normally questioned whenever I just say like doodle art. As I said, doodle art, that's just very casual, scribbling and all. No, it's just more to that. It's important for us to actually. So if I say, if I just say Miro, everybody goes gaga over Miro art. I say, what is Miro's art? What is that? Is that doodle art, or what would you call that? It's like what we try and do now, and when you become like people who've done it in past, and you look at all these masters' work, quite a lot of them have got doodles in it, and they are inspired from the memory. But it's difficult to get that movement there. That this is a very strong movement as well. It is, and it is actually your unconscious self speaking out. So it is a true form of art as well. So bring it out. That is what I am of the thought. But yes, I guess it will take a lot of time to get that floating in.
Yeah, there's. I was just thinking of. There's another artist. Oh, he's long since gone. He was too young to die. Basquiat, Hume.
Yes, Basquiat, yeah.
I think one of his paintings has raised. I think it was in the last couple of years ago, the most paintings ever acquired at Sotheby's. I mean, that was, to me, that was doodle art. His work.
Yeah, absolutely. It was much imitated after that, but he was brilliant, I think. Yeah, I think his work is terrific.
I love his work.
Miro, I like Clay. They become my favourites as opposed to more.
I love Miro's work. Has been an inspiration, and they are not connected. Or if you see all they are all symbolic based, and they're like he's narrating the story, which is like all spread out, and somewhere it is not connected. But when everything comes in together, then you realize yes, everything is related. But when you have a look at the first glance, it is not related. But then you really need to put your thoughts into it. It's like each time you look at the work, you try and find something new there.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Yes, yeah.
Hi, thanks a lot for the session. I thought it was very useful. I personally find it a bit restricted, the fact that the scenario was basically given it to us. And today I got a headache, so I couldn't do much. But I like very much landscape with nature. So I did find the crowded space in a way was kind of putting a limit to my imagination, but I definitely find the session very useful. And funnily enough, I was given like some books on calming art therapy in the past, and I've never done it because, as Linda said, I find sometimes that if I need to repeat a pattern in a way, I have found it tedious in the past. So I wanted to challenge myself, and recently I have done some on my art, which is pretty much surrealistic, with some element of doodle arts as well. And actually, if it does come from your own subconscious or from your own idea without any kind of prompt, it is very interesting. And so I totally agree with the exercise in general. I got some stuff that I done a few weeks ago, probably over a couple of months ago, and I posted on Instagram. And it does actually show some Doodle Art, but it's not the one of today. So you can see it's quite figurative, but then I actually did lots of patterns.
Lovely.
So when does doodle become pattern, and when does pattern become doodle?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know if there's an answer. It's just a question.
To me, I don't know. Maybe that's not. Maybe you don't agree to it. I feel that doodle becomes a pattern. It starts with a doodle, which is a general shape or an expression, just like a probably flower or a cluster of circles, because you represent, those doodles are representational of your inner self. And I don't know if you ever realize that whenever there'll be one or two very prominent doodles that you do it all the time. In each of the doodle, the way you do it is symbolic of what you are thinking at that particular moment, and those are well engraved in our memory. So that the memory gets onto doodles when you start on to repeating, picking up on those. Like I started, I said when I started with my little piece, I had done the bird and a tree, so to prepare the patterns. So these were the memory symbols that I have of feathers. So I started with that, and so you take a lead from that. That's an initiation point to you, and then you just go. Then things just start flowing. That is how I would explain it.
I think that's what happened to me, because as soon as I had my eyes closed, and as soon as you said city, I started to draw a city, and that's what I really drew. And I've never done that before ever. And somehow, when you said to embellish it and make a pattern, the lines seemed to become very predominant.
Patterns are all not very decorative, not necessarily always decorative. They can be just used with vertical, horizontal, curved lines. That is it we need. So we get an expression just with that too.
It's very different to what I normally do, which is portraiture and figure work.
I've done, I think on my website, I've done portraits in this too. So recently one has been converted into a puzzle too with one of the companies.
Patterns, as I understand it, is a repetition. So it could be a repetition of absolutely anything.
Yeah.
You can't define it. Can't say one is one or the other. You can't put the specific words, whatever it is. You can't sort of label it.
Yeah, because even the trees, I feel trees are also a pattern.
The branches always form patterns if you look at them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, wonderful. Pamela, just
oh, lovely.
Beautiful.
Pamela's nice.
Oh, lovely. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, Pamela's lovely.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Have you done anything like that before, Pam? I can't hear you. You're muted.
You are on mute.
Sorry, I was muted. No, I haven't done anything exactly like it. I do find I Google on the phone all the time. On the phone, I do.
Yes. Do you keep the doodles? Because that was the whole thing when my mum passed and we started looking through her old, papers to throw away. We found countless doodles that she used to do because she had one of these old-fashioned real phones, probably Maybe you have one of those, I don't know. But we found loads of her doodles, and they were fabulous. And they were repetition, and she always had the same symbols. I'm really keen to talk about that. The same things came through each time. Yeah, very interesting. So we need to see your phone doodles, Pam.
They're not very good. They're on the edge of magazines and things like that.
Yeah, we know the feeling, that's right. That was lovely, that.
Wonderful, very beautiful. And I love the control over it, it's so nice.
Have we seen everybody's? Did anybody hasn't
Anybody
heard
else
it?
want to say share their work? Okay, Nadia, wonderful. 1 second.
Oh, Nadia's.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely.
Really nice.
Nadia, hold it up again.
We didn't see it.
My computer is playing up.
Hold it up.
Put it up again.
See it if you hold it.
Yeah,
That's it.
wow, that's cool.
Excellent.
Nice and neat.
That's like a ball play done in the Algeria or
I think we need to do this again.
Well, I think by the time, I'm going to say thank you from behalf of us, the Art Society, Ashima. I think next time you're booked again, by the way. Hopefully, it'll be a live session. You can do
Yeah, I would love to do a live session as well.
Yeah.
Work with plugged in with pattern papers and the fine work like a collage. And to take you to a journey, I will do something else that time. But that was really nice, and I really enjoyed that. And I really
Enjoyed it. Thank you so much. That's all. I mean, it's considering it's all on a flat screen. To do something like that is not. It's not an easy thing to do, and also, actually get us to go along with the feeling of it and to, actually participate. Everybody participated, I believe. So I think that went down really well. And thank you for, agreeing to do it and coming to do it. We'll.
thank you very much for actually letting me do a session for such amazing artists, and just trying to break away from the normal work that you all do, and I get a lot of inspiration as well from today's session.
Well, I'm certainly going to finish mine. I don't know if it's certainly not a city, but it's a city where birds reign supreme.
That is what you want the city to look like.
Yeah, I'm going to.
That is what I wanted. City, because we all are around in the cluster. Why I said city, because at the moment we all are surrounded by various, we coming on lockdowns, and we've been being cooped here.
Yeah.
Houses, which are like just one with city with high-rise buildings where you don't see.
Yeah.
So that is why I just got that thing of high-rise buildings in the city.
That's Harrow. I mean, I went out yesterday to the optician down to Wheelstone. I couldn't believe these high-rise buildings suddenly, where we used to take our car to a garage over the bridge, and these high-rise flats are just emerging there. It was quite scary. Blocking out the sky, yeah. Trapped.
Exactly.
I put a new piece of work up for consideration for the Contemporary Glass Society, and I've called it Trapped.
All right.
If I get it accepted, I'll put it online. You'll have a look at it.
Definitely, I would love to see all your works on your Instagram.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
put mine on my Instagram.
Just tag me, please, in case you can.
Well, I will. We'll tag you, of course we will. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.